Shalom Aleichem. This is your favorite Rabbi Nissel presenting part one of a four-part series called SHIDDUCH Survival Tactics. We are going to be discussing everything you need to know about the dating scene on a practical, hashkafic level. And today's opening class is called When Are We Ready? Now, before I begin, I just want to give a little government health warning. This presentation is focused mainly on the post-seminary crowd, although I will tell you that 90% of what I'm saying is generic. Of course, that means that if you are going through something unique and special because of your unique and special circumstance, so don't listen to what I'm saying, or just be in touch with me or your local mentor or anybody that you trust that can give you proper advice and ask, how does this work for me in my situation? My presentation is going to be for most people, most of the time, under most circumstances. So take a deep breath and enjoy. Let's begin with the most obvious question of all. What's the purpose of getting married? Like you're thinking to yourself, like, duh, of course everyone gets married, but think about it. In the secular world, that question is a huge question, and not everyone thinks that it's okay to get married. I mean, let's be honest. What is the average age of marriage in America? You want to guess? What's the average age of marriage in America? So for guys, it's actually 30, and for girls, it's actually 28. Interestingly, it's the same statistic here in Israel. I'm assuming that their sources are secular, not from the yeshiva world or what's called the Haredi, or even amongst the more modern Orthodox. The numbers are probably significantly lower. But generally speaking, people are getting married later and later. A very, very simple reason. I saw in Memphis, Tennessee, a bumper sticker that basically said it all. It said, just because you're married, it doesn't mean that the party is stopped. What it means is that the party is carrying on without you. In other words, most of the world, they see marriage as being locked in to one partner, and there's something frightening about it. So why should you get married? Some of you are thinking like, oh my gosh, Rabbi Nissel, no offense, but have you met my grandmother? Literally, she is threatening to have a heart attack if I don't get married. You know, those kind of grandmas. But the bottom line is that there has to be a reason. Some of you subconsciously, the reason why you want to get married is because you're bored. Some of you subconsciously, the reason why you want to get married is the pressure because your friends are getting married. Some of you subconsciously, the reason why you want to get married is because, let's be honest, you have this massive yetzer hara for that gender that may not be mentioned, for boys. And yeah, you see marriage as a solution. Yeah, good. Now I can be legally not shomer. Everything will work out just fine. So there are reasons why you want to get married. A lot of people just start dating because they're bored. These are not real reasons. They're certainly not hashkafic reasons. Just before I gave this presentation, actually 3 days ago, I went to a website called marriage.com. It seems to be a more conservative type of website, and that talks and encourages marriage. It gives social reasons. What I mean by social reasons, this is in contrast to what you will study in university in anthropology class, that marriage was an ancient custom to be able to keep the survival of the species. So that's what they're going to teach you in university. In marriage.com, they give nice, Hamish, but nevertheless secular reasons for getting married. I printed it out. I'm going to share them with you, just a couple of them. Reasons why you should get married. This is marriage.com. Number one, marriage will give you the legal rights of a spouse. Woohoo! Okay, it's all about money. We all know how important it is that the legal spouse, not because you want your children to bring the legitimacy of their birthright, but it plays a vital role in your assets and all kinds of marital rights, including retirement funds. Okay, this is going to be a major reason for you. Oh my gosh, the retirement funds. Marriage is the beginning of your new life together. And they talk about the importance of commitment and the importance of having a relationship that is meaningful. Marriage will strengthen your union as a family. Statistics show an alarming rate of absentee parents, which will then cause significant mental and behavioral effects on the child. So it's basically better for your kids to be married. It is the ultimate act of love for your partner. So here they struggle to explain how this works. But in the end of the day, they say somehow or other, marriage is casual when you're not married and becomes real once you get married, and so on and so forth. This list is basically the same kind of genre. The last one, number 10, it provides your relationship a place in society. No matter how many years you have been dating, many people will consider your relationship casual unless you are married. You might have been living with the person you're dating and be never taken seriously. Marriage gives a socially acceptable name to your relationship. It helps you celebrate your love for one another. It creates your presence as a strong couple in a society and provides the needed respect from society. Now, I shouldn't really make fun because these reasons do have a lot of truth in them, but they are secular, meaning they avoid the true Torah reason for getting married. So I want to spit it out as clearly as I can. The reason why we get married is because every Jew is obligated to imitate what happened at Har Sinai. What happened at the mountain of Sinai is that the Jewish people married HaKadosh Baruch Hu, married God. Now, we're not going to talk about what that means. Yom Chasunasai, Yom Simchas Libo, as King Solomon, Shlomo Melech said, that God's great wedding day, God's day of great enjoyment that happened at Har Sinai. God represented the male dimension, we represented the female dimension, and it was called a wedding day. That extraordinary day when Hashem gave us the Torah was not just the giving of how to live our lives, not just the Torah as the Oraita, the light in the darkness of all Hazeh, but it was also the foundation of a marriage relationship based on Kedusha. Klal Yisrael, ki ish echad b'lev echad, was the female, Hashem was the male. The whole event was like a wedding. Heaven and earth were the witnesses. The flowers came from the Garden of Eden. At the smorgasbord, they served milchiks, and so on and so forth. Everything that you learned about Har Sinai and Shavuos being a wedding day is emes. After that, every Jew, male and female, create marriage bondings to imitate what we have at Har Sinai. How it works exactly is complex. And I actually have in front of me a little bit of self-promotion over here. This is my book, Darchei Bina, on women in tefillah. There's one of the introductory chapters explains in great detail the linkage between the Jewish home and the marriage of Hashem and Klal Yisrael. By the way, do not look for this book. It's not in the stores. Amazon will sell it to you for $1,000. Wait just a couple of weeks, a couple of months. We are about to come out with the new expanded Darchei Bina version. Thank you, Feldheim. And if you're thinking to yourself, Rabbi Nissel, stop be so self-promoting, the answer is I can't stop myself. I want you all to buy Darchei Bina. Anyhow, back to the class. So at Har Sinai, we had what was called a wedding. That wedding was transferred into the Mishkan, as the Ramban explains. The Mishkan was the home for that wedding. That Mishkan, in turn, became the Beis Hamikdash, and that Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, which means the marriage now is in exile and will hopefully be rebuilt the way it should be in its perfection with the coming of Mashiach B'Meher V'Yameinu. Until then, you and I build our miniatures of the Har Sinai event called the Jewish home. And that's why when a man puts a ring on a finger of his future wife, he says the words Hariat Mekudeshes Li, right? The word Mekudeshes Li means that we are creating Kiddushin, something that is holy, something that is infinite, something that is a microcosm to what happened at Har Sinai, something that will imitate the home of Abraham and Sarah, Yitzchak and Rivka, and Yaakov with Rachel and Leah. Those eternal homes will be perpetuated by the homes that we create. And we're going to go back and explain this in greater detail about how your home is unique and special. But what we need to know for this presentation is that your marriage is a moment of kedusha, of creating something unique and special that never was and never will be. And when you get your marriage right and you do what's supposed to be, you are building one of the blocks of the future Beis Hamikdash on a spiritual ruchnius level. By the way, I'm just going to throw this in. Today's society, I've completely missed out on this whole Kiddushin dimension of marriage. Today, it's just a emotional, a legal connection. Technically speaking, it's probably legal in your state for you to marry your rabbit or your hedgehog or your penguin or whatever you want. Today, marriage has lost the whole Kedusha dimension and has become almost a trivial, meaningless statement. But by Klal Yisrael, we take this very, very, very seriously. When you will go round your husband 7 times, you will be building this wall, and all your girlfriends watching you, you're giving them a message. This man is unique and special. For me, stay away. This is my man. That's what it's all about. So let us just summarize what we've said so far. Marriage is a fundamental part of our lives to create something of kiddushin, to create a bias that is me'ain, that is an imitation of the great bias, the Beis Hamikdash, which has its roots in the union of the Jewish people and God at Har Sinai. And that is the basis of a Jewish marriage. So having said that, we understand why this is a very powerful and very heavy and very deep concept, what it means to get married. So when should you get married? Obviously, when you're in high school, you were too young. Obviously, when you're 28 and 30, that's too old. Life is not a party. So when should you get married? So I want to give you the Menachem Nissel rule of getting married, and that is you're ready when you have 2 important ingredients as part of your persona. You ready for this? Okay, first of all, shluck, okay. Yum. Okay, so the first reason when you're ready to get married is when you understand the concept of giving. So my brother-in-law, Rabbi Roll, he used to be Masada Kaddish, used to do marriages and used to come out with this cheesy line that is absolutely true. Marriage is not about give and take. Marriage is about give and give. Allow me to explain what he meant. What does it mean to be a giver? When I got engaged, I will never forget this. My Rebbe, Rav Moshe Shapiro, Tzaddik Zichron Livracha, called me into his office to congratulate me. And then he said to me the following words, which still rings in my ears, and I try my best to follow it. He said, the moment that you get engaged, your life is no longer about you. It is now about somebody else. When you're with your wife, you should be 100% focused on one thing and one thing only. What is best for her? This is not so simple. The Hebrew word for giving is latet, but in Aramaic it's hav. Hav means to give, which is the root of the word ahava. It's a very cool concept. Ahava is love, and if I love my wife loves me, so you have ahava going in both directions. The ahava is a result of the hav of the giving, meaning true love. The definition of true love is the emotion that you feel towards the recipient of your giving. That is what true love is. When ahava works in both directions, you have what's called unity. Ahava is gematria. The numerical value of ahava is 13. Aleph, hey, base, hey, 1, 5, 2, and 5 is 13, which is gematria echad, which is the gematria of unity, which is one. Everything has 13 dimensions to create something that is whole. So, for example, okay, let's go back to my book over here. This book, as you can figure out, has 12 edges, and okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2. Together is 12. 13, what unites it, the Aleph in the Echad, is what is called a book, right? That's what makes it one. Same thing, marriage, both loving each other, is what creates this unity called Echad. By the way, you should know that one of the key components of giving marital advice when things do not go well is to keep that giving. Don't give up on that giving, even if the other side is not giving, because as Shlomo Melech told us, Kamayim Panim El Panim, when you give and you give and you give, the other side will pick up on it and want to give back. It's not guaranteed, but it's one of the most powerful strategies I know of fixing a marriage. But it's also not what we're talking about today. We're not talking about fixing things. We're talking about creating the Ava, creating the Achdus, and you are ready to get married if you can have a relationship where you're constantly thinking, not what can he do for me, but what can I do for him? And of course, it works both ways. Again, I know I'm speaking primarily to a female audience. I'm hoping that there are men listening as well, because my Rebbeim taught it to me, and I think it's so important that just like women have a mentor to help them through the dating process, and most times men need the same. And I had my Rebbeim holding my hand through this process, and they taught me this fundamental concept of being a giver. How do you know you're a giver? How do you know that you're ready to give? Honestly, you can ask your roommates back in seminary. It's incredible that now, after years and years of hindsight, I remember that in my dorm, back in my yeshiva days, there was always those people that were always thinking about others and those that were thinking about themselves. Fast forward 40 years later, almost, giving away my age, and yeah, the ones that will focus on giving, they still have the best marriages, and it makes so much sense because and when they were single, they were focused on others, and now it just continues. And this, my honored listeners, is a challenge for you to work on, to reach that point where if someone would look into your mind, they'll see you're not thinking about yourself, you're thinking about what I can do for others. One of the most important messages I give to young ladies when they leave seminary is to set aside time every day for chesed. And I don't mean the fake chesed that we often have in our seminaries where, you go to a house on Thursday night and you babysit the kids, and then you come back home and you say, yeah, I did chesed. No, chesed means that you set aside time for truly giving because it's the right thing to do. Whether it's volunteering in an old age home, or it's just helping your mom in the kitchen, or going over to your married sister and helping out in her home, or just volunteering in Kira, or whatever it may be. The idea of giving aside time for giving is your training ground for what it means to be a giver, that life revolves around other people and not yourself, and that should continue until the day you die. By the way, for those of you who are thinking, what about me? I promise you that this is going to be the what about you. You're not supposed to do it for that reason, but the biggest beneficiary is going to be yourself. And you think about it, the happiest moments of your life was when you were giving, not when you were taking. The moments when you felt the best was not when you were receiving that gift, but when you were giving that gift. The most powerful memories you will have into the future is not when you're sitting in a concert of your favorite artist, but rather when you're helping a little old lady in an old age home, and she thanks you because you gave her something of value that she could not do for herself. So getting that mindset, that is the first fundamental of what it is. Marriage is to give. So Hashem is constantly focused on us, and we, through Torah mitzvahs, are constantly focused on him. I'm actually speaking now in El, so that's the love of Ani L'Doidi, V'Doidi Li. But it's got to start with you, Ani L'Doidi, and that's the first step in marriage. The second step in marriage is that you have to go into the dating scene standing for something. You must stand for something, meaning you have to know what your hashkafas are, your world outlook. A home, your home has to stand for something. It's not just a boy and a girl. First comes love, and then comes marriage, and then comes a baby and a baby carriage, and the three of you somehow work things out together. No, you go into the home standing for something. You have a hashkafa. What should that hashkafa be? It's none of my business. You got to figure this out for yourself. How important is Israel? How important is marrying a guy, kolel, kiruv? How important is it that your home is cleansed of any secular influences? Each one of you has to have a din v'cheshbon, has to really, truly figure this out for yourself. Now, I'm begging you that you do not create a fictitious you when it goes into the dating scene. It's going to backfire against you. You got to be self-aware. What do you stand for? And you have to know what it's all about. Sometimes your hashkafa could be, I don't care. It doesn't bother me what kind of guy he is. I don't care. He could be a brisker, or he could go to America's a Rav Cook. He could be into Breslov, or he could be into Chafetz Chaim or Eish Torah. It doesn't make any difference to me as long as he's a great guy. That's your hashkafa. So fine, go with that. Go with that. But I just, in general, most times, the more that you are feeling specific, the easier it is to find a guy who's on the same page as you. If you're like fluid, so very often guys want girls that appreciate who they are and what they're all about. I've had to deal with situations where a girl says, so what do you stand for? It says, this is my, I'm into whatever, this Hasidus. He says, okay, that's cool. But they don't realize what they're getting themselves into. It's good to know what you stand for and to find a chassan who's on the same page. Now, when I give my class, which is the next one about what to look for in a guy, I will be saying that you want him to be different from you in personality. Great marriages are when two different personalities blend. But when it comes to hashkafa, philosophy, you have to have the same page. You don't want to be fighting about what kind of schools you want to send your kids to, or what kind of shuls you want to daven in. You can respectfully disagree on nuances, but you have to be basically on the same page. So let me just summarize. You're ready when you have these two things. Number one is that you know how to give in a proper Rav Dessler sense, that you understand that the true love comes from the emotion felt towards the recipient of your giving, and you're ready to truly love the other, not what the other does for you, which is self-love. And the other is standing for something. By the way, this famous debate, should you start dating when you're on a high out of seminary? So I can't really 100% say that what I'm about to say now is always the case. But in general, the Menachem Nissel lets me, I feel that there should be a 6-month lag. It's just a personal feeling, because then you can see if you're solid. It's very unfair to come up a seminary high and that's it, kolel, and then this guy, like, he wants kolel, and then you suddenly realize, no, this is not for me. And by then you fall in love with each other, and this guy feels eternally let down. So it has to be something that after seminary, meaning the proverbial fire, you take the pot off and it's still bubbling because it's from the fire. But if it can generate its own heat, then you know it's real, and you know your hashkafas are real, and you know this is what you truly stand for. That is, in most cases, the healthiest thing. I want to finish off with a beautiful story. And I apologize if you've heard it, but it's just one of my favorite stories about Shidduchim, and that is the story of Reb Chaim Kanievsky and the young man that came to him and said to him, Kvod Harav, I can never get past the first day, because unfortunately, every girl, when they actually see me, they see that I look hideous because of the hideous scars on my face. And indeed, he did look pretty scary. So he asked him, my dear Talmud, my dear friend, how did he get these scars? What's the backstory? So he says, so many, many years ago, when I was a much younger man, I was walking through the old city of Jerusalem, and I saw an Arab was about to attack a young girl. So I stood up in front of that Arab and I basically blocked the girl from the Arab's attack. The Arab had a knife, and instead of attacking the girl ran off, and we struggled. And he managed to give me a few good knifings on my face before he ran off. And I became permanently disfigured from that incident. So Reb Chaim said to him, take my advice, and next time you date, tell this story at the very beginning of the first date. This should be the opener. And that's what he did. And he told over the story to this young lady. And this young lady, she starts pouring with tears. She starts crying away. She is so emotional, and he does not know what is going on. And she says, yeah, I know what you're thinking, Readiness, you're making this up. No, this is a true story. I was that girl. And they all lived happily ever after. And that's my bracha to you, all those wonderful listeners, that this opening class about knowing when you're ready to start dating should end with the greatest bracha of all, of a happy marriage and a healthy marriage and a long-lived marriage filled with bracha and atzlacha. Thank you so much for listening.